members of Congress are investigating D.C.'s crime data. The House Oversight Committee claims a whistleblower informed them that the statistics were manipulated. Now, you know, President Trump has repeatedly referred to what he claims are fake decrease in crime stats to justify his federal takeover of D.C. Illinois' governor argues that Chicago's crime has also plummeted in the past year, as the president says the National Guard could be headed there next.
We go in, we will solve Chicago within 1 week, maybe less, but within 1 week we will have no crime in Chicago.
This is not about fighting crime. This is about Donald Trump searching for any justification to deploy the military in a blue city, in a blue state, to try and intimidate his political rivals.
All right, CBS News Department of Justice reporter Jake Rosen is tracking the latest on this and joins us once again. Good morning, Jake. Explain why the president doesn't believe D.C. or Chicago's decrease in crime numbers, and also help us understand what powers he has to deploy troops to Chicago.
Well, D.C. is unique, Errol, than every other city that is warning that potentially President Trump could send the National Guard there, because the mayor here does not have control over the National Guard deployment. That's fully up to President Trump. In addition to that, there's congressional legislation passed and signed that allows the president to temporarily take over the Metropolitan Police Force. They did that on August 11th. It'll be in place for another week and a half or so. That gives the president a specific advantage in the district to be able to federalize the Metropolitan Police Department here and move the local police alongside federal law enforcement like the FBI, Homeland Security, in addition to the National Guard, to kind of put them throughout the city and do everything from immigration arrests to simply just police the streets. In Chicago, it would be obviously subject to legal challenge. We've seen mayors throughout the country, in Baltimore, Chicago, already warn of that. However, if you think back to a couple of months ago, Los Angeles, after California sued, the protests in Los Angeles were sparked. President Trump put the National Guard there, and upon appeal, he won. And we've seen, according to at least our CBS News crime data, that at least this D.C. federal takeover is working. If you compare year-over-year data for the last 5 years to this year, Errol, crime is down about 50%. Violent crime is down about 50%. Obviously, crime is still happening, contrary to what President Trump has been saying. However, there are simply more law enforcement here to stop it and deter it. Think about those National Guard troops walking along the streets. Simply, if you were going to commit a crime, you might not do that now if your block now has somebody patrolling it constantly.
Right, and that fresh new CBS News analysis of D.C. crime rate data will be available on CBSNews.com. Viewers should certainly check that out. And Jake, one of the president's executive orders yesterday allows the administration to create what are effectively National Guard units, including a rapid response force. What is the plan for that exactly?
Well, details are a little vague at the moment. We saw President Trump tease earlier this week, Errol, that potentially there would be kind of an East Coast and a West Coast center where National Guard from all over the country would go learn how to kind of handle domestic confrontation in cities and work on potentially de-escalation tactics or counter-protest tactics, right? What it appears like might happen now is that President Trump has directed the Pentagon to start working on plans for the National Guard to potentially select units from every state to then be used so that President Trump can deploy a specific amount of National Guards men and women into cities who have already been trained. Because there is a little bit of a lag here, and we've noticed this here in D.C., as when the Guardsmen have been deployed, they still have to go to a base near the area, train up, work on de-escalation tactics. These troops are not trained necessarily for civil unrest. And that is something that President Trump has sought to quell. That is really at the center at the issue here, as you saw J.B. Pritzker, the Illinois governor, tease that he's worried that this is more of about a federal power grab of policing and intruding in the rights of these cities and states than it is actually making people safe.
That's right. A lot of National Guard folks are reservists and have day jobs and aren't always standing at the ready. Very interesting plan there. Jake Rosen, great to chat with you.